And prior to that time, did you engage the White House in an effort to obtain these materials?
All kinds of engagements with our counsel and counsel, both
I'm talking about
Justice Department and White House with our counsel over the last several months relative to the special counsel
this subpoena, Mr. Chairman. Did you engage with the White House at any time in the last several weeks since issuing this subpoena, the one you want to hold this witness in contempt for? Did you ever engage with the White House in an effort to accommodate, an effort to reach an agreement, an effort to prevent this from having to be litigated? Did you ever write any correspondence, make any call to the White House seeking to engage, seeking to get these materials that you're seeking from the author instead from the White House? Did you ever do that, Mr. Chairman?
Gentleman from California withdraws point of order who seeks recognition. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, much as I don't like certain parts of the Mazars decision, it clearly applies in this case, and the committee is required to engage with the White House in order to seek an accommodation over materials held by a private party, as they were in the Mazars case, and seek to resolve this with the White House. So I would ask unanimous consent that we enter into the record your correspondence to the White House.
Objection.
Seeking to engage them to resolve this. And I thank the chairman for not objecting. Can you produce that correspondence to the White House asking for accommodation on these materials you've sought by this subpoena?
First time they reached out to us was 2 days ago.
Yes, and of course the author expressed the concern that these materials may implicate interests of the executive. I think that was weeks ago. But having admitted without dissent your correspondence to the White House, can you produce that for us where you have sought an accommodation, where you've sought to work this out with the White House? Can you share that with us since that is now part of the record?
Well, I thought you had it. You wanted to enter it into the record.
I do. I presume that, knowing your responsibilities, you have sought to engage the White House. So,
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Produce the
recognized for point of order.
I think a unanimous consent request to submit something to the record is where the person who's asking for the floor is the proponent of submitting information that member has. I don't believe it's appropriate to ask a unanimous consent request to engage in a colloquy over discovering information or obtaining information from another member of the committee.
Great, and that's why I said that no objection to the unanimous consent request. If the gentleman from California wants to talk about that and present it to us, God bless him. He's allowed to do it to his 5 minutes.
I would like clarification from the chairman. Does this mean that there is no correspondence from you to the White House seeking accommodation on this material?
We've had all kinds of correspondence with the White House on this broad subject relative to the Zwanitzer and the letter we got 2 days ago. We've not corresponded with the White House yet. If we will, we may. That's a decision we'll make.
And you have not corresponded with the White House seeking accommodation ever since the author who you are subpoenaing and seeking to hold in contempt articulated the view that there was executive interest and potential privilege over this material? You haven't sought to engage over the weeks since you received that communication?
We have not engaged with the White House since the letter on the 25th of this month, 2 days ago.
And prior to that time, did you engage the White House in an effort to obtain these materials?
All kinds of engagements with our counsel and counsel.
I'm talking about
Justice Department and White House with our counsel over the last several months relative to the special counsel
this subpoena, Mr. Chairman. Did you engage with the White House at any time in the last several weeks since issuing this subpoena, the one you want to hold this witness in contempt for? Did you ever engage with the White House in an effort to accommodate, an effort to reach an agreement, an effort to prevent this from having to be litigated? Did you ever write any correspondence, make any call to the White House seeking to engage, seeking to get these materials that you're seeking from the author instead from the White House? Did you ever do that, Mr. Chairman?
We're seeking documents from a private individual who, I might add, tried to destroy the evidence.
I guess the question is, I guess the answer is no.
Since 2 days ago.
The answer is no.
The answer is since 2 days ago, I'm not
asking the question about since 2 days ago, although nothing prevented
That's when they first raised the concern.
Nothing prevented you from writing a letter within the last 2 days or reaching out to the White House before this.
Now you want me to be clairvoyant and read the White House's mind and write a letter before they tell us something?
Nothing prevented you from seeking these materials from the White House.
California is known
for months, Mr. Chairman. For months.
I'm not a mind reader.
And I thank you for making a very clean record for any court that will look at this.
The gentleman from North Carolina said
an accommodation
months ago the White House could have raised the concern, and they didn't.
To obtain these documents. because your first move, of course, is to go right to contempt. Ironically, of course, for a chairman who was in contempt of his own subpoena.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
We're still waiting for you to testify and meet the obligations of your own subpoena, Mr. Chairman. But nevertheless, I appreciate you're making such a clean record for any court in this case that you have never sought an accommodation, never written to the White House, never called the White House, never had a communication with the White House in order to obtain these materials as part of an accommodation. Thank you for that very clean record for the court, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition?
All right, folks, I just watched that exchange from a hearing, and let me tell you something. If you want to see exactly how Washington politics works when the pressure's on, this clip shows it perfectly. Before we get into it, if you're someone who loves this country, believes in the Constitution, and wants the truth instead of the media spin, make sure you subscribe to America's True Patriots. Hit that like button and drop a comment below. I read the comments, and I want to know what you think about this moment because it says a lot about what's really happening in Washington. So picture this for a second. The hearing is underway, tension already in the room, and Representative Adam Schiff from California jumps in trying to challenge the committee chairman about a subpoena involving documents from a private individual. Schiff starts pressing hard about whether the committee contacted the White House first before issuing that subpoena. And right away you can see where this is going. Schiff is leaning heavily on the Mazars precedent, that Supreme Court case involving President Trump's financial records. His argument is that before Congress demands documents that might involve executive privilege, the committee should first try to reach an accommodation with the White House. In other words, he's saying the committee should negotiate with the executive branch before forcing someone to hand over documents. Now, here's where things get interesting. Chairman Jim Jordan explains that the committee is seeking documents from a private individual, not the White House itself. That's an important distinction that Schiff seems to gloss over. Jordan makes it clear the committee has had plenty of communication with the Department of Justice and White House counsel over the broader investigation involving the special counsel. But Schiff keeps drilling down, asking the same question over and over. Did you personally write to the White House about these specific materials? And eventually Jordan says the outreach about the particular letter only happened a couple days earlier. The moment Jordan says that, Schiff jumps on it like he just found the smoking gun. He starts talking about making a clean record for the courts, basically suggesting the committee skipped a step that could matter in litigation. Now, let's pause here, because this is where the political theater kicks in. If you watch the clip carefully, Schiff isn't really trying to clarify facts for the committee. What he's doing is setting up a narrative. He wants it on record that the committee didn't go through a lengthy negotiation process with the White House before moving forward with contempt proceedings. Why? Because Democrats know that if this ends up in court, they can try to argue the process wasn't handled properly. But here's the reality that a lot of Americans watching this will immediately notice. The subpoena isn't directed at the White House. It's directed at a private individual who reportedly tried to destroy documents tied to the investigation. That matters. Congress has oversight authority, and if someone outside government is sitting on potentially important records, the committee has every right to pursue them. And yet Schiff keeps pushing the idea that the committee should have gone to the White House first, almost like he's trying to slow things down. Then comes a moment that really shows the political tension in the room. Schiff thanks the chairman sarcastically for making what he calls a clean record for the court, and then he drops a political jab about Jordan himself once being held in contempt of a congressional subpoena related to the January 6th committee. Now, folks, that's classic Washington politics right there. Instead of focusing on the documents or the investigation itself, the conversation turns into a back and forth about procedure and past grievances. But here's what I think a lot of everyday Americans are going to see when they watch this exchange. They're going to see lawmakers arguing over process while the bigger issue, transparency and accountability, gets buried under legal technicalities. And that's frustrating, because at the end of the day, Congress is supposed to conduct oversight. If someone has documents tied to an investigation, the American people deserve to know what's in them. The last thing we need is endless procedural arguments used to stall investigations or create loopholes. Now, I'm not saying procedures don't matter. They absolutely do. The Constitution and the rule of law matter. But when politicians start weaponizing procedure just to score political points or slow things down, that's when Americans start losing trust in the system. And let's be honest, Schiff is one of the most polarizing figures in Washington for a reason. He's been at the center of some of the biggest political battles of the past decade, from the Russia investigation to impeachment hearings. Supporters see him as aggressive and relentless. Critics see him as someone who pushes narratives that don't always hold up under scrutiny. So when he presses his hard on a procedural point, many conservatives are going to look at it and say, here we go again. Meanwhile, Jordan is trying to keep the focus on the fact that the committee is investigating a private individual tied to a broader issue involving the special counsel. From his perspective, the committee is simply doing its job. The truth is, moments like this show how divided Washington has become. Every hearing turns into a political battleground, and every exchange becomes a clip for cable news or social media. But here's the bigger question I want to ask you. Do you think Schiff was genuinely defending legal precedent and proper procedure? Or do you think he was trying to create a legal shield that could slow down the committee's investigation? That's the question that really matters here. And it's also why conversations like this are important, because the mainstream media will often show just a tiny clip and then tell you what to think about it. Here on America's True Patriots, we watch the whole exchange, we break it down, and we let you decide. So if you believe in honest discussion, if you want more breakdowns of moments like this straight from congressional hearings, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video so more people see it, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this hearing exchange exposed political games in Washington? Or was Schiff right to challenge the process? I want to hear from you. And as always, stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop standing up for truth in the Constitution. United States